All right, and we're COMP100 and it's week 7, lesson 7, part 1. We just finished our little exam or test, and we covered some parts of this stuff last time we were together before the break. We covered actually the while loop, and today what we're going to do is we're going to cover the for loop, the do loop. We're going to try and get through most of this, and we're not going to do the GUI piece, the UI piece, because you're not going to do UI in this course, user interfaces. We're not going to do that. Okay, as a refresher, again, a loop, when you look at any kind of loop, it's a structure that can allow you to repeat the execution of a block of statements. So basically, you have a statement block, and anything that's inside of there, when you run a loop, will repeat over and over again. That's really what a loop does. So let's take a look at that. Let's kind of put together, let's join me now. You can use your laptops or the computer in front of you. Let's join me here on Visual Studio so we can practice this together. And by the way, we'll do a little switch statement while we're at it. All right, just cause. So I'm going to go New Project. I'm going to go to Visual C#, and I'm going to go to the console application here, and I'm going to call it COMP100 Lesson 7. We're going to do everything in this Lesson 7. Okay, so I'm also going to put this up on GitHub if you wanted to look at this for the future. So I'm going to go into GitHub. Remember, we did GitHub last time. And in GitHub, I'm going to kind of create a new repository. And in there, I'm going to say COMP100 Lesson 7, right? And then create my repository in here. Then I'm going to take the URI, copy it, go back into my my project, and in here in my Team Explorer, I'm going to go Changes, where I'm going to put my commit is going to basically say created base Visual Studio C# project. That's what I'm doing here, right? Commit. And then I'm going to go into my, to sync the commit, I was going to copy in the URI and click Publish. Now, if you guys want to follow along, you can by meeting me here on GitHub at COMP100 Lesson 7. This is where I'll keep all the code we'll have for today. Okay? And I'll keep doing that, like I said, every time. Code examples will be online, so you can always go back and take a look at them if you forgot. Okay, so here in our main program, again, I'm going to make this a little larger so we can all see it. In our main program, we have our main method. This is our main method. Remember, we just talked about this, right? Where is the starting point? I know we have all these using statements, but these using statements isn't the starting point. These are just ways of importing our libraries into our code, right? And remember, namespace is almost like the main container, the folder that contains our program, right? And if you notice, our namespace is the same in this particular case as the name of our project. My project is called COMP100 Lesson 7. In this particular case, just by chance, the namespace is also by default called COMP100 Lesson 7. And that container is where we share all of our variables with other classes and objects inside the same container. Okay, but in our class program, this is our main program, our main kickoff point. We know we don't need this stuff. Let's just get rid of this today, right? This is a different thing to do. And it'll still run. Our main program doesn't need this stuff, right? We don't need this stuff. We can get rid of it because that stuff is only pertains to us activating our code from the command line. So instead of going through Visual Studio and I want to run my code, I run it from the command line. I actually go in the command line and go whatever the name of my program is called, and then execute it, right? Now I'll never do that with you guys in this course, right? So we can always erase that and feel happy to do so. It's not going to affect us in any way. So I can always erase that stuff. Okay, that's one piece. The other piece that we always want to talk about is if I want to create some stuff over and over again, and one of the things I like to do is create that write line statement that we always do, right? So let's practice that again for you guys to remember, refresh. So console.writeLine, and again, write line, what it does is it kind of says, I'm going to put in, press any key to exit, right? That's what I'm going to put in here. And after the console, this console command, I want to do a console.read key, and the read key, what it does is it waits for just a key, any key to be pressed before it proceeds, right? If I hover over this read key, by the way, it says the console.read key is it takes the character, the next character or function key pressed by the user, and the pressed key is displayed in the console window. That's what it does. So it listens for this console. And if you notice, it produces an exception if you get a weird key or something else. That's all this thing does, this console.read key, right? If I go to console.writeLine again, I'm going to writeLine just a little bit of a divider. And again, I just kind of, like I said before, console.writelines are free. If you want to add additional dividers or things to make the console look nicer, all the power to you, right? That's what I say. So this is what I've added in. And if I want a separator between the console commands, I can always go console.writeLine, right, with nothing in it, or I can use a console.write with a \n, because this is the same. This \n is an escape character that works exactly like console.writeLine with nothing inside of it. Right? Both are the same. So if I did this, take a look at line 14 here for me. This line 14 right here, I can do this, or I can do this, and they mean the same thing. Let's use the console.writeLine because that's easier. Okay, when I do this, if I run my console application, my console app, and I run it, I get some build errors. Let's see what my build errors are. Okay, so I expect this on line 15, so I forgot something. Let's see where I forgot it. Right here. It's my semicolon that I forgot. And that's what our debugging mode does for us. Okay, let's run that again. Okay, so I've got this black console window, right? That's what it is. This command prompt window. I'm going to just change my properties for us for here and change it to white, the background. My screen text is black. And I'm going to go into, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to go into my font and change it to Consolas 20 and press OK. So now we've got this white screen here. You can see a little bit easier. Okay. Cool, cool. I've got this piece done. Now, if you remember, if I wanted to create a menu, let's do that menu. So we last week, or the last time we got together, we created a menu. And the way we did that was we put it inside of a while loop. Right? Remember a while loop, right? It may never execute. How do we start off a while loop? We do it like this, while, right? And inside the while loop, we put in the condition we're checking for. So let's say, for example, we're listening for a key to come into the key from outside, right? Like I want the user to press a key for me to choose the menu. I'm going to create a menu here, right? Well, while my prompt, right, is not equal to the exit option. And let's say we only have a couple of options, like we did last time. Option 1 is, the console is going to say hello, and option 2, the console is going to say goodbye. Option 3, exit. Okay, so let's try that. So depending on the prompt, I'm going to say while prompt is not equal to 3, right? Then I want you to loop. While prompt is not equal to 3, I want you to loop. Well, look, it's giving us an error because there is no prompt right now. We've got to define that, right? We've got to say what prompt is. And remember, when we make while loops, we're going to create something called a Sentinel variable. A little bit of more jargon. Sentinel variable, or a control variable is also what it's called. And what it does is it creates a variable before the while loop to kind of initialize the while loop, right? So here, I would have to just kind of describe what this prompt is. For now, I'm going to make it an integer. So let's do this. So I'll say integer prompt, right? And I can initialize it to 0. I'm using I'm initializing it because on the same line that I'm declaring it, I'm setting this value. So here's where I'm initializing it. Prompt, right? That's what I've done here. And this is my while loop. This is my, I create my menu in here. Right? Okay, so I've got my prompt. It's listening for 3. It starts at 0. If I was to run my program now, what would happen? I'm going to just print something out here, just as a test. Console.writeLine, and I'll say something like just as a test. This is debugging, right? So inside the while loop. Okay, this is just review. What happens if I just run it now? What do you think is going to happen? Addy, what's going to happen?
I think it's not gonna like do anything because you haven't asked what you want to write in it.
Well, you are writing something. You're writing a write line.
You haven't asked. Like you haven't. It's not. Didn't give you a response. Like you didn't. The console didn't ask the user for a response yet. Yeah. For a number. Like
I'm not doing that yet. I haven't done a menu yet. What does it do right now? Let's look at the code.
It's just gonna show the text.
All right, this text. Okay, how many times is it going to show the text?
Forever.
Forever. It's going to loop forever because it's called an endless loop. More jargon, more words for you. It's called an endless loop, buddy. That's what it's called, endless loop. And it's going to endlessly loop in here because I'm checking. What am I checking for? If prompt is not equal to 3. Well, you know what? Right now, prompt is 0. And there's nothing that's going to change prompt inside of our loop. It's going to keep being 0 forever right now, the way we've written it, right? So unless we change prompt, the value of this variable prompt, somewhere inside of our loop, it's going to loop forever. Let's try that. And when I say forever, I mean it's an endless loop, right? It just keeps doing this forever until the computer dies.
What's it called again?
Endless loop.
No, there's another word you used for it last time.
No, it's an endless loop. That's what it's called. Okay, so that's what this is. So we have to terminate the loop. Memory leak is something else. That's what can be caused by an endless loop. Okay, let's do this. So this is obviously just a test case, right? So now I want to do my switch statement, but before that, I want to kind of write out my menu. So let's create our menu. So I'm going to say console.writeLine, right? And the first piece of the menu is going to be some kind of, some kind of filler, right? There's some filler. And I'll go console.writeLine. Let's make it nice, this menu that we're going to create. And I'll say, I'll use a bit of a dot there, a couple spaces. One, we'll say hello. Look how I'm formatting it, right? And then this is kind of weird, and it's kind of, I'll be honest with you, a little bit annoying to do. And we never do it typically, but just for illustration purposes, let's just try it out. 2, say goodbye, right? And 3, actually, let's just put a console.writeLine now, like this, with just one of those and one of those, just to give some separation between our exit option, right? And console.writeLine three exit in caps. Exit program. How about exit program? See how I've aligned everything nicely? Let's go continue. Console.writeLine. So this is, I'm just creating what it's going to look like, what the menu is going to look like. It's going to make some more space here before we actually display the menu. Right? See what the menu is looking like? Huh? Isn't that sexy? Come on. Right? So that's what the menu is going to look like. Now, what happens when I run this menu here, right, inside my while loop? What can happen? Please tell me. What's going to be the same thing, Mark? Tell me. It's going to run this thing over and over again for infinity, till infinity. Let's try that out. So it's going to just show these lines of code over and over again forever, right? Well, we need this to stop, eh? Hey, this has got to stop, guys. This can't go on, right? This crap. Well, this is part of our menu, but the next piece of our menu is we've got to make it so that I read some code, right? Well, here's where I'm going to read my code. I'm going to say this. I'm going to go prompt, right, equals to, are you ready? Convert, right, dot to int 32. So I'm converting to an integer because that's what a prompt is. Our prompt is an integer. And what am I converting? console.readline. Now I could use read key too, but tell me what's happening here.
That's a lot more efficient than what we used to do.
It is. I'm just showing you new things, right? It's got to be. We got to show you. I got to continue to show you new things, right? So what am I doing here? I'm doing this console.readline here, right? And the output from this console.readline is going to be fed into this convert to int32 function, which converts this number into an integer. So whatever I get from the console this way, as long as it's a number between 0 and 9, okay, it'll convert properly and put it into the prompt variable. Okay? Okay, now what is it going to do? What's this thing going to do at this point? What's it going to do at this point? I want you to tell me now. So now, before it would spin for infinity, what's it going to do now? It's going to wait for an input. But once I put it into once I put in the input, what's going to happen after I put the input? Then it's going to go to infinity, right? Because there's nothing's going to stop it after this. It's going to follow the course of my commands. Each command will be executed in order. Execution means it's going to run the command, right, in order. So this is the first command, the second one inside of our code block. And it's going to keep doing this until it gets down to prompt. It's going to wait here for your input, and then it's going to continue. It's going to hit this curly brace, which means, hey, loop again, check my condition. It's going to go in here and says, has my condition changed? No. So it's going to do this again. Let's try this out. Here's my menu. Looks like it's working. I put in a 1. Oh, there's my menu again. I put in a 2. Oh, there's my menu again. I put in a 3. There's my menu again. It'll keep doing it forever because it's just going to keep waiting for input forever and ever and ever. Now look, you know what? Look, I put in 3. Hold on. 3 stops me from executing my code because it's waiting to see my 3, right? This is interesting. So if I push 1 or 2, it'll continue forever, but 3 will kick me out of my menu because it's waiting to see that it's not 3. As long as it's not 3, that's what this means. Prompt is not equal to 3. Or let me word this another way. While the variable prompt is not equal to 3, keep looping. That's what this thing is doing. That's what the while loop does. Okay? Okay, let's add in our switch statement. Okay, because we were weak on the switch statement in the exam, right? Okay, so we've got our prompt. What am I going to switch? I'm going to switch my prompt, baby. That's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go switch. This is how I started off. Prompt. And when I do my switch statement, I need to have these curly braces in place. Here, this is what it looks like now. And inside my curly braces, I put a couple of case statements, right? My first case statement is case 1. That's my first case. And then I need to put a break. And then it's case 2. I need to put a break. Do I need to put case 3?
No, you just put default.
Because if I put case 3, I mean, it doesn't really matter. If I get a case 3, it should exit, right? Anytime I put case 3, it's going to switch these objects. And then if it's not, 1 or a 2, and if it's a 3, it'll exit. But what about if it's something else? Like if they enter in like a 10. Well, 10 doesn't mean anything. So we'll put in a default case, right? And we'll do something there. So this is our outline. We've outlined the switch statement. We haven't put anything in there right now. We're just checking. This is like saying, remember, a switch statement is like saying, if prompt is equal to 1, then do something here. Else, if prompt is equal to 2, do something here. Else, do this. So it replaces, a switch statement replaces a bunch of if, else, if, else, if, else, if, else, else statements. That's what it replaces. Instead of having all those, this is a neater way, a much nicer way of looking at a way of using conditional code to run one command over another one, right? But what the case statement does is it'll check every single case, and anything that doesn't match these cases, if it's not 1 and if it's not 2, then it must be something else, right? So if it's default, it's not 1 or 2, it's got to be something else. Now here's the trick. If we don't put 3 in here, it's gonna go to the default case. We don't want that to happen, so we should really check for 3 as well, right? So let's say case 3 and break. We need to do that because if we put the default in there, anything else other than 1 or 2 will go into the default. So we need to check for 3 as well. Okay? So again, this is like let me do this again for you. It's equivalent to saying if prompt is equal to 1, right? Or, right? Else if prompt is equal to 2, else if prompt is equal to 3, else then do this, right? Okay, so case 1, well, I said I want to say hello, so we'll just put in that command. Anything between my case statement, here's my case statement, and the break, equivalent to a code block. Instead of without using curly braces, I'm making this into a code block between these two. Between my case statement and my break is a code block now, and it'll execute every command I put in there in order. All right, so let me put in a console.writeLine command in here that says hello, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing, but we're going to put the console.writeLine command between this case and the break, and we're going to say goodbye, right? And you know what? In this case, in the break, we're going to say something like console.writeLine. We can put nothing. We can just do console.writeLine if we want, right? Because it's just going to exit. If case 3, we can put nothing. We can put just a blank space and exit, which is fine because, or even just nothing, like leave it blank, because once it hits 3, it's going to break out of our loop, and it's going to take us back to check to see if our prompt is not equal to 3. All right? The default. Let's write something for the default. Our default case, we're going to say, you know, please enter valid option. Or instead of enter, we will select. That's more better. That's a little better. Please select a valid option. Okay. And I'm going to save this. Okay. Now what is this going to do? This is our full-blown menu now, right? Well, here's the while statement. It says while the value of prompt is not equal to 3, loop. When I say loop, it means do this again and again. Do these next statements between this code brace and this code brace. Between these two braces, this whole code block is going to loop over and over again while this condition stays as not equal to 3. I remember, what am I testing here? I'm testing to see that this condition is true. I can put whatever condition I want in there. As long as it resolves to true, it's going to keep looping. Once the condition becomes false, it'll break out of the loop, right? If it never becomes false, it'll become an endless loop.
You should also add the console.clear.
I like that, console.clear. So once we say hello, we want a console clear, but how do we console clear, right? Maybe as an option, you mean? Clear the console as an option, or do you want it to clear after we have our selection? Well, the way to do that, of course, would be to create another read key. So hello, and then press any key to continue kind of thing. Then it'll take us back and clear the console. So what it would be is one of these. So hello, we're going to do this. Take this line of code. We're going to duplicate this line of code here. Oh, you guys are going to love me when we don't have to do this anymore one day. And I'm going to put this in here. Just going to kind of, there's some code in there, bunch of code in there. Do the same thing for here. And you'll see what I'm going to do in a second. Instead of press any key to exit, we're going to say press any key to continue. Right? Press any key to continue. And after we read key, we're going to wait for the key to continue. After we read key, I want to clear the screen. So how do I do that? I go console.clear. Right? That clears the screen. Yeah? Let's try it out. So I'm going to run it. I've got my console, right? Say hello, say goodbye. I want to say hello. Hello, right? And then press any key to continue. Boom, clears the screen. Goodbye, right? Press any key to continue. Clears the screen. If I want to add some separation between my choice And my hello, of course, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another write line statement. Write line statements are free, like we talked about before. You can add as many as you need to make your code look nice. Okay, let's take a look at that now. So say hello, hello, right? And say goodbye, goodbye. The other thing that we're missing here is we did this prompt with a read line, but maybe we want to give the option to the user some kind of console command that says, please select, 1, 2, or 3, or something like that. So I'm going to do a console.writeLine, another console.writeLine, or maybe something like, please choose an option above. And I'll say 1, 2, 3, right? As a way of denoting that this is the way it's going to be, right? Let's see how that looks. So I'll save it and I'll run it, and now I get this. Say hello, look, please choose an option above, 1, 2, 3. Well, man, my read key is down here. I don't want my read key to be down here. I want it to be over here, right? So how do I do that? Well, instead of my write line, I can use a write, which doesn't enter give me an extra space. And now when I run it, do it again, now it's over here. If I want to give myself an extra space between this and this, right, I can just add another space between here and here to format my line a little better. Let's try that out. And now you see my cursor is right here, right? So I can choose 1 and then hello, right? It makes more sense. It looks a little nicer, right? Now there's a lot of control, console.writelines here, and my menu is going to continue to go until I tell it to stop. What if I enter a weird number like 10? It's going to say, please select the valid option, but it didn't do this menu screen again, so I've got to fix that option because I didn't fix that up. Which means this piece down here, I'll add all these lines again, right? So that's what I'm missing. So I need to do one of these, right? Because I got to do some validation and put that in there. And then I got to add all these, right? After this one. Make sense? And now when I do it, I choose another option other than 1 to 3. If I choose like 5, right? It's going to say, please select the valid option. Right? It's going to keep on putting me back there. Now, it still will break the program, right? If I put something else in there. Like if I put an A in there, it'll go wham. I don't know what A is. It's definitely not an integer, right? What is that thing, right? Woohoo! That's okay because I'm still recording and you'll have it up online, right? So one day it'll actually bring this up again.
I don't know if it's gonna save on here.
May not. I don't know if it's going. Sorry, we just had a bit of a power outage for those people who are watching at home, wherever those people are. Yeah, we had a bit of an issue like that too. Oh yeah, baby. Well, the screen is going up. So while the screen is going up and down, I'm going to continue recording. All right, so does that make sense, what we're doing here? We're kind of putting together this menu, a very simple menu, but we're adding all these console.writelines. It's killing me, right? It's killing me how we do this stuff. Well, we're going to learn in the future how to compartmentalize our code and reuse some of it because a lot of it we're repeating, right? Like look at all this repetitive code here. All this piece right here is repeated over and over again. Like we just keep repeating this code over and over again, which is kind of ugly, yeah.
Can you do like a switch statement and then you do like an else at the end?
No, it's not an else. Remember, the switch statement is, if you're going to use a more complex.
I was thinking because remember when you type in a letter and it breaks your program, how would you fix it though?
Which one?
Like if you type in a
Here?
like A.
Oh, I can't fix it here. No, I can't do it with this, right? Because when I do validation, when I do input validation, what I got to do is I got to check to see that whatever I get from the console, right, is only of type integer. And if it's not, right, then I got to ask the user to enter a valid option right away again. Like won't even allow you to enter another option. And there's tricks and tips on how to do that, but that's a little bit ahead of where we're going to be. So let's leave it alone because I don't want to confuse the crap out of you guys, right? But basically that's what we do. So this, for now, we're going to continue to assume that our input is perfect, right? Like the guy who's entering our system cannot break it. It's going to be perfect input, right? Which is absolutely wrong. It's not never perfect. Users always try and break our code. Okay, cool, cool. Let us continue with the example. So now that we've got this funky switch statement that does stuff, right? And remember, we can do whatever we want in here. I can do other if statements in here, right? Like I can say, I can implement whatever other code in these little code blocks that I want in my menu, right? So we're going to run some other things in here. We're going to expand our menu example. And let me just come up with, I'm going to sync this up with GitHub so you guys can follow along. I'm going to say added console menu and switch statement. Okay, so I'm going to kind of commit that. And I'm going to go home and also go to unsync commits and sync. Okay, it's synced up now, so you can get it on GitHub. If your computer reset and you want to kind of follow along, I've already synced it up on GitHub. And it's the code is COMP100 lesson 7 part 1. Okay, so we've done that. Let's go back and talk about other looping structures. Like last time we covered the while loop. Let us cover the for loop, okay? Because this is a very common looping structure, right? Again, a for loop is a shorthand way, like it says, to create definite loops. A while loop we use when we don't know how many times we want to loop. A for loop we want to use when we know exactly how many times we're going to loop. Like, for example, I want to loop 10 times, right? Then I'm going to use a for loop if I know the exact amount of times I'm going to loop. So I want to kind of make a range of numbers that I'm going to loop through. In order for me to make a for loop, I need a couple of things. Here's the sections of the loop. The control variable. Remember we talked about the control variable in a while loop is outside of the while loop statement. But in a for loop, it rests inside of it, right? Then there's a test that we're going to do, a conditional statement. Just like we did the while prompt is less than, not equal to 3. We need to do something like that in the for loop. And then there's like some kind of control variable updating at the end. Something that's going to increment or decrement the variable. We're going to see this in a second. We can also initialize more than one variable. We can declare a new variable. We can perform more than one test. Okay, we can do all these things that inside the for loop. Those are more advanced functions. For now, just think about these 3 things we do in every for loop. We initialize, we test, and then we update the variable. And I'm not going to cover this for a second. So this is what a for loop would look like. Here is a while loop, right? We have our control variable or Sentinel variable outside of the while loop right here. X is equal to 1. We initialized x up here. We declared x up here, int x. And then while x is less than or equal to the limit, which is 10, then keep writing the console, the number of x, right? And then increment x right here so that x quickly kind of comes and approaches the limit. That's one way. Here's the for loop. Huh? Here's the for loop. Our for loop, right, where we say x is equal to 1, we initialize the for loop here. We check to see what the limit of the for loop, if it's meet the for loop, just like we do here in the while loop. And here we increment the variable. And anything that's directly after the for loop executes. Now, guys, this down here, bad form. I don't never want to see you write something like this ever when you write a for loop. You need to have opening braces and closing braces because this can cause a big issue. All right? Go ahead. Let's take a look and see how that works. I want to create a for loop and I want to check. I like this idea of this constant max. Right? Let's say we want to create a constant Now, how do we create constants? You guys remember? I use the const keyword, int, const, int, and then we create the variable. Remember, when we do constants, the convention, the way we write things, is in all caps. That's our convention for creating or variables as constants. An example would be max. I'm going to call this max turns, right? And my maximum turns is equal to 10. I like that. Maximum turns equals to 10. Okay, cool. Max turns equals 10. There's a green squiggly. What does that green squiggly mean? It's not used, right? That's why it's just a warning. So Visual Studio creates a warning and says, hey, we haven't used this thing. It's unused. Okay, cool. I want to add, look at this, look at my little menu here. I want to add another option. So what am I going to do? I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to take this line here, copy it, go to the next line, paste it, and change this number to 3, change this number to 4, and say, when I say goodbye, instead of saying goodbye, I'm going to say, I'll say take a turn, right? Don't worry what that means right now, right? And now, well, I'm going checking for 4 right now. This is a new option, so I got to update all this stuff. Let's do this. So first of all, I got to make sure that it's not 4, not 3, right? You can see where I'm going with this, right? I've got option 1, option 2, and option 3. Option 3 kind of does nothing right now, but I wanted to do something else. And option 4, I need option 4, so I might as well take option 3 and turn it into option 4, right? Here's my option 4. So case 4, I'm going to scroll up so you guys can see that. So case 3 and case 4 look the same right now, but case 3 I'm going to change. Case 3, I want to loop. I want to create another loop inside here. So I'm going to go for, here's my first for loop we were writing together, integer, I'll call this index, right? Or let's call it count. Count makes more sense in this case. For count, right, is equal to 0. That's my initialization, semicolon. I'm writing my for loop, right? And then as long as count is less than max turns, that's our constant, then what do we want to do to count? We want to increment count plus plus. That is what a for loop looks like. And then I want to put my curly braces in here, right, to perform this task, whatever this task is. What am I going to do? I'm going to print out the value of the for loop to the console, right? So that's what I'm going to do, to say console dot writeLine. I want to print out the value of count to the for loop, to the console. That's one thing I do want to do. You know, I need some separation, just like we did over here, just to make it look nice. So I'm going to take this console dot writeLine statement and print that out. Oops. If I can actually, sorry, Mac PC stuff. Okay, cool. And I definitely want to do all this because I want to still do the read key, blah, 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 and the clear, right? So all that stuff is going to be repeated. So put all that stuff in there too. So I'm just going to repeat my count. I'm going to count the numbers between 1 or 0, sorry, 0 and 9. I'm going to count the numbers between 0 and 9. Why? Because I'm going to start the count at 0. It's going to check to see that my count is less than max turns, and right now it is. Right? When I start off at 0, let's count this together. Here's my loop. Anything that goes inside of here is going to continue to loop until this condition is met, until this condition is false. Right now the condition is true. Take a look. And I'll ask you the question, Lennon, is count less than maximum turns? Maximum turns we defined as 10, right? Right now, is count less than 10? Yes, because count is 0 right now. For when we first start the loop, count is less than 10. So it's true. So we're going to loop, okay? And I'm also going to increment count. So once this condition is true, I'm going to increment count. When I come back around, what's the value of count now? I just incremented it. So when I come back around, the value of count is 1. Is 1 less than 10? Yes. Do another loop. It's now 2. Is 2 less than 10? Yes. Keep going, and keep going, and keep going until this condition is false, where count is actually equal to 10. When count is equal to 10 or equal to 9, actually, right? After count is equal to 9, it becomes false because when you increment count to 10 and you do the condition check the condition one more time, then it fails the test. This is the test right here. It fails the test and breaks out of the loop. Okay, let's try this out. So I'm looping. I've got my 4 options now. Oh man, I forgot to do something here. Look what I did. Please choose an option above 1 to 3. Nah. Arg. This is what happens with these manual menus, right? Please choose an option right now 1 to 4. That's what I want to say. Let's run that. So please choose an option 1 to 4. I choose 3. Take a turn. Bam. Oh man, what happened? How come it only printed out 1 time? It says take a turn. Let's see what happened. I expected it to loop, to print all the numbers out. How come? Well, let's see what I'm doing. I'm saying int count is equal to 0, right? As long as count is less than max turns, right? Count plus plus. So I keep doing this, theoretically, inside my case statement, right? I keep doing this until count is equal to thing. And what am I going to do here? Look, I go here, right? And I go to press any key to continue, and then I clear it. Oh man, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's try this again. So I go to 3, take a turn, press any key to continue. 1, take a turn. 2. Oh, that's not the effect I wanted. How come it did that? Well, because it's following what I'm telling it to do, right? Anything that's inside of this gets looped, right? Including this stuff, which is not what I wanted. I don't want this to loop. I want this to show only when my loop is done. So what to do, right? Well, the thing to do is, of course, take this out of here. And remember, we're inside of our own little statement, right? Here, before the break, and put that there, right? Now it's outside of the loop, right? Because anything that's inside of these braces, right, is inside the loop. This code block is going to execute inside because of this for loop, right? And anything outside of the code block, like this stuff, will not execute anymore. So this is not going to execute. And just to make it so that it's properly formatted, this is what it should really look like. I've got my for loop, and if you notice, my for loop in these console statements should be on the same line from a formatting perspective. Okay, let's try this out. I start it, I press 3, now take a turn, bam, there's all my values. Oh man, I don't want it to loop like that. I got this extra space in there. Why? Because I left this frickin' console, right? Look at this. My right line, I left that in there after every loop. And I have this before every loop. I have another one. So I'm getting like 2 spaces before everything. I don't need 2 spaces. I only need 1. So I'm going to kind of cut this out of here and put this down here. Because I definitely want a space after I'm done looping, but not during the loop. I only want 1 space between each of them. Okay, cool. Let's try this now. You understand what I'm doing? The loop is controlling what's inside. Whatever's inside my looping structure is the statements that are going to repeat. Every statement that's inside my looping structure. Okay, let's run this. I do this again. I press 3, enter. Oh, there they are. Now I can see them all. Look, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wait, I went from 0 to 9. Why? Because I initialized my for loop with a 0. What if I want to count from 10, right, to 100? How do I do that? Max turns can't be 10 anymore. It's got to be like, but I want to count to 100. I want to include 100. So I'm going to choose this, make it 100, right? Let's write the condition so that I loop from 10 to 100. And you know what? I don't want this extra space in there because there's too much space now. I don't like it. Okay? What I do want is to put this extra space in before the loop, which is up here. So I want to put that extra space up here, but not inside my loop. And if you notice, I just have 1 statement now inside my loop, just this console.write line. But I want to loop from 10 to 100. How do I do it? I'm going to ask Mark, how do I do it? How do I loop from 10 to 100, including 100. Because right now I'm going to loop from 0 to max turns, but not including max turns. How do I loop from 10 to 100, including 100? What's the statement I got to make? I want to start at 10, and I want to go to 100. How do I do that? And I want to start by
And you stop at 100?
I want to stop. I want to show 100. I don't want. The other way I did it here. Look, this way I start at 0, and I go to 9 because I go anything that's less than maximum turns. And maximum turns was 10. Now I've made max turns 100, right? But I don't want to start at 0. I want to start at 10. How do I make that happen?
Count is equals to 100.
Well, if I make count equal to 100, it's not less than 100, so therefore this thing would never run. The condition would never be true. So the for loop would never run. Let's try that. Look, if I do this, count is equal to 100, where count is less than maximum turns is equal to 100. So is this test ever going to pass? No. This test is always going to fail because I'm already at 100, right? So this can't be 100. I want it to start at 10, and I want it to go to 100. What value should I put here? No, here, for this first piece. Count is equal to, huh? 10. Very good. So I start count is equal to 10. This is where I'm starting, right? And less than or equal to, less than or equal to, good. Less than or equal to, because you can put that condition, okay? So I want to go, and I'm going to increment in steps of 1, right? So I'm going to go 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way to 100, right? Let's try that out. Okay, so I'm going to press. Now it's going to be a long list here, guys. So take a look here really quickly. 3, bam, right? So this is all the numbers. And if I scroll up, it's all the way from 10 to 100. Okay, this is cool. This is every number from 10 to 100. But what if I don't want every number from 10 to 100? What if I want to do every other number from 10 to 100? How do I loop?
Every other?
Every other number.
Well, you can change your count plus to count plus 1 plus 2. Like every other number, right?
Yeah. Think about the statement you'd use. Well, let's try this. Let's try plus equals. Let's see if this works. Count plus equals is true. Can that work? Let's see. So I'm going to go from 10. It's going to go 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, like that. Right? Let's try it out. I'm going to go 3 and enter. Boom. And that's what it does, right? 10, 12, 14, 16. I'm skipping everything. Okay, what about if I want to do by every 5? So every 5 by 5. So 10, 15, 20, 25. And instead of starting at 10, I'll start at 5. Right? So and I'll increment by 5. Plus equals to 5. And I'll run it. And I'll go 3. Now it should be 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, like that. Right? So the advantage when you use a for loop is very powerful in that if you know how much you're going to increment, how many times you want to loop, you can control the numbers that come out. And you know I'm using the number in the for loop to print these things out, right? How about if I want to count backwards? How do I do that? So I want to choose another variable up here, and then we'll stop recording for a second. Here, I want to create another constant integer, minimum, we'll say minimum turns, right? And I'll say the minimum turns is 10, right? Minimum turns is 10, okay? And I want to go, here's my count. I want to count from, listen to this, from 60 down to 10. How do I do that?
So you count 60 is equal to
60, okay, that's good. That's where I start off. So my count is 60. Now what's the condition? I've got to change this condition.
To minimum turns.
Count is what? as long as count is it less than?
Greater than.
Greater than
Equals to.
or equals to. That's right, because we're changing. We're counting down, so we have to change the sign. So greater than or equals to minimum turns. Min turns, right? Okay, this is what it's doing. So starting at 60, how do I go down though?
Minus, if you want it by 1.
Minus, I want to go by 5. So minus equal to 5, like that. Right? And let's see if that works. So I'm going to go from 60 down to 10 in increments of -5. Right? Let's try this out. I'm going to go 3, bam, 60, 55, 50, 45, 40, 35, and so on, all the way back down to 10. So we have a lot of control with the for loop. Actually, we can do the same thing with the while loop. The only thing with the while loop is the control variable is outside of the while loop, starts off outside of the while loop, and the while loop, right, what it does is we use it primarily when we don't know how many times we want to loop. If you know how many times you're going to loop, it's better to use the for loop because that is a limited number of times to loop. I will. It's important for you guys to know how to do looping because if you don't know how to do looping, then we're really in trouble for programming 2. Okay? So let me just commit this thing, and then what I'll do is we'll save this movie and make a new one. Take a bit of a break. Added for loop.
The for loop has to be inside the while loop. Start it off.
Well, I'm just using the for loop here inside of the case statement just because the way I've used it, right? But the for loop is a control structure, right? It's a looping structure that allows you to reiterate or regenerate this code, repeat this line of code over and over again. That's all it does. And this here, this little notation allows us to say, here's what we're going to initialize the control variable with, here's how we're going to test the control variable, and here's how we're going to change the control variable. And they can increment or decrement, depending on what you want. If you want to go up in count or down in count. By the way, there's other ways of looping that it's very interesting, right? Like, for example, if I want to loop so that my number, I can increase my number. I don't have to do this count minus equal to 5. What if I want to say another way of doing a loop without incrementing to 5? I want to increment by 1. Okay, here's one more option. Mark, take a look. I want to start at 0, right? And I want to say, while count is less than or equal to maximum turns, so I can do this again, right? Here's my maximum turns, right? And I want to do this count plus plus. I'm going to count up from 1 to 100 right now, right? That's what you think. But what if I want to count up from 1 to 100, right? Well, what I want to do is I want to test to see that every time, as long as count, right? As long as count is, I want to put another if statement in here to say, if my count is, I can divide count by 5, so every 5 numbers, right? How do I do that? Then print the console command, otherwise don't. Well, there's a really cool way of doing that, right? I can do this. I can say if count %5, right, is equal to 0, then what I want to do is I want to take these brackets and do one of those. So what does this mean, this notation for my if statement? So what does the percent sign mean? Do you guys remember?
Yeah.
It's called a modulus, right? What we do is we say, hey, don't divide by 5. I want you to, actually, it is divide by 5. See the division sign there? But it gives me the remainder. So if I say, if when I take 5, take my count and divide it by 5, I have a remainder of 0, which means it's an even number every 5, right? Then I want you to show this right line. Otherwise, don't. So it's still going to count by 5. But I only increment by 1. Look, over here. I increment by 1 every time, but I'm only going to show this console.write line every 5 times. Let's take a look. So I'm going to go here and press 3 and press enter, and I still get that 5, 10, 15. I also include 0 because 0 divided by 5 is still 0. So I started at 0. And it goes 5, up 5 every time with the percent sign. The percent sign here is called a modulus. That's what the operator is. And what it does is say, it's like saying, take count, divide it by 5, and give me the remainder. And if the remainder of count divided by 5 is equal to 0, then do whatever you're going to do. And usually this is useful to check things like every 10, every 5, every 20.
To like create the timing when the loop starts, like it's like a countdown every 1 second. The next time.
Yes. Yes, we can do that. We can do the second count by using another function. There is a timer kind of function we can use. And it's an advanced function. We're not going to do it right now because it's way advanced. I like your thinking, right? And for the future, it'd be really cool. We can make a little timer, right? A countdown timer.
Because like type 3 and all of a sudden everything is in there.
Yeah, we can do the way we can do things like that. We can actually do a little timer, and we'll after the break we'll look it up, okay? And because you're asking for it, we'll do it. All right.